Well, I hope you are doing well in these what continue to be unprecedented times. Welcome to the Fintech Finance Virtual Arena, where we are joined by Victoria Harverson from SmartStream today. We're going to be having a wee chat about AI in financial services and what that means in terms of knock-on effects across the rest of the business. So let's get straight into it. With such a demand for front-end services, why would banks, or even some of the new digital banks, why would they even care about their core systems? Because it's all about the front end for the customer, surely?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that that's a really good question to start with. I think that what we see in our industry today is that banks are constantly striving to really organise themselves, and even the digital banks, to compete in an age of disruption, frankly. That's actually a name of a book that I highly recommend. The banks organise and organise themselves and create technical budgets for run the bank and change the bank scenarios to sort of enable this activity. And I think that all the large financial institutions really should care about segmenting their businesses in that way. And like you said, there's lots of demand for incredible front-end services that really focus on the customer experience. So banks need to have their own special sauce. I think you have to have a dedicated function and budget for your tech innovation activity. That's really key. The client experience it's your differentiation. It's the biggest contributor to your profitability function. But what actually happens if the banks over focus on those things? If you don't invest in the core underlying systems, like maybe end-of-lifing components, end-of-lifing old systems, lifting out various components, updating the customer engagement pieces, rebuilding your actual architecture underneath so it's flexible, scalable, you can upgrade it easily, and most likely cloud ready. You'll need to look at that as well. If you don't do these things, you risk sort of dragging your feet through the technical mud, I suppose. Banks are really constrained by inflexibility of core systems, and I think that they can represent the real productivity and transformation functions. So just in summary to your question, if you don't invest in improving the core systems underneath, you remain with a lack of technical agility that filters all the way through the organization, and you risk getting disrupted by the competition.
Tricky question around that ratio between running the bank and changing the bank in terms of technology. Do you think that perhaps because executive teams are under such pressure to deliver results on a quarter-by-quarter basis, that there's almost a reluctance to do the big cost projects that would involve lowering the costs long term? Do you think there's a bit of sort of short-termism in the at an executive team level?
Yes, I do. I think the big projects that are being put in place that will have a 3-year or a 5-year outlook to improve efficiency and reduce costs, I do agree with you. I think that they are often deprioritized in favor of the front end services, and I think that is that's an issue, because I mean, I've been in financial services technology and I've been working with banks for 15 years, and it was that story 10 or 15 years ago, and now you're in real trouble if you're not prioritizing those really significant change projects. A large bank in the media very recently, I won't name who it is, but a very, very large bank was fined, I think, $500 million for just a series of delayed change projects because of the risk controls, which it not updating their systems, the consequences of not doing that created real issues in terms of missing error, not reporting frequently enough correctly. So yeah, it's they do still get deprioritized for more innovation projects, and I think that's not a good thing.
So with that in mind, what does this mean for the customer? I.e., From a customer perspective, I just want my bank to function. I only see the front end. I don't see anything on the back end. What does updating these services mean for the actual customer as a whole? Because I don't look through my, I don't decide on my bank and think they must have this underlying kind of core system. They must be cloud-based. That doesn't come into the equation.
Yeah. No, I hear you. The customers don't really see that underlying activity on the back end, you're right. But improving core systems, I suppose, from a customer perspective is actually very tangible, even though they don't feel it. It would be onboarding them quicker, going through that motion of the onboarding process a lot faster, because the core banking system is more ready to accept their information, more agile and flexible to their information. And also offering new products is a lot easier. That's a big benefit to the customer. They'd be able to start trading and using new products a lot faster. I suppose our customers using our AI solution in their core banking architecture, the things they can do is they can inspect data between front, middle and back office systems very easily. They can also better leverage their transaction data, so they can then run business intelligence. They can do things like forecast client spending and the trading behavior with that data. I don't think these are new concepts. We are also running a number of initiatives with technology stakeholders at banks to help them speed up their development and transformation projects. So if you want to do a major core bank change or an update, we can give you guys AI, we can give you a tool for a number of development tasks. We are using it at the moment to run QA tasks that would usually take 4 hours. We can do this in just 4 minutes using artificial intelligence with a fraction of the resource. So that's what some of the areas we're helping our customers to do these things.
You mentioned disrupted, got to mention the innovation stack, and one of the quotes in it is that the reason Amazon is regarded as one of the world's most dangerous companies to enter any market is because of Jeff Bezos's AI flywheel, because it just keeps spinning faster and faster with more data and more analytics going on in it. How can banks use some of the opportunities surrounding AI at the back end to start to build up its own version of that flywheel spinning?
Okay, that's a good question. It's a big question about the sort of opportunities in AI. Just before I comment on that, I think it's worth saying, just because you want AI or you see the value in it, it doesn't mean you actually have an efficient implementation strategy to get it in place. I remember someone quoting a CEO of Capital One saying, consumers will demand it, technology companies will necessitate it, but the challenge is banks are not really built to deliver those capabilities. Now, why is that? And I think the challenges here are legacy IT infrastructure. Systems often don't share data or interoperate with each other. There's also a lot of divisive feelings around using AI still. It's either the solution to solve the problems in banks, and it's a great thing, and it's well supported, or the fear is that people are going to lose their jobs if you put it in place. So I think the truth is, if you don't do this, someone else will. And back to your question in terms of the opportunities, you know, where you see these opportunities in AI. In the front end, the AI is much more recognized and supported, and people get it. We talk about delivering really personalized experience, like your Amazon analogy, ultra personalized experience. We learn from the customer's behavior, we market to them in the right way. But in the back end, we're looking to implement AI where we can control risks and increase productivity and efficiency, and in turn this lowers costs. In the core systems, you could think about doing things like modeling the lifetime value of the customer, or fraud prevention with AI, or ID verification, KYC, churn prediction of the customers. But one of the areas we focus on at SmartStream in our innovation labs is AI in the data management space, and being able to compare high volumes of data to look for discrepancies instantly using AI. So we've now got no need for you to build a data reconciliation in our latest AI solution. The AI does it for you. We use supervised and unsupervised and observational learning techniques, and you can link system data together to make sure it displays in all the same systems accurately, and we can reconcile vast volumes of transaction data in lots of different formats in minutes rather than days. So just back to your question, the opportunities are many. We focus on operational productivity enhancement, and we want to do more with less when it comes to AI.
Oh, I don't know, Victoria, that seems like a massive upheaval. I mean, surely that would require, you're talking like 2-3 years of implementing. Talk me a little bit about what happens behind the scenes at a bank when it comes to, let's take data management and reconciliation. What's the process there that we're looking at? Does this require a complete overhaul of the bank's technology, or is it able to run on even the most convoluted systems?
So in terms of the changing of core banking systems and those sorts of challenges and upheaval, like you say, I think somebody once described changing a core system as changing the engine of a Boeing 747 in midair, which I really liked. Haven't done one myself, but I've worked with many banks that are in the middle of this type of activity, and it certainly does come with risks. Maybe you can keep some of your core systems for things that they do really well, general ledger, position keeping strengths, but you could lift out some of the customer experience areas and upgrade those pieces. I think that's one way to kind of make this type of project a lot easier, rather than doing a big bang approach with the whole thing. You can do it in phases and in various components. But when it comes to introducing AI into these back-end processes, I don't think it has to create too much upheaval. It's not a difficult thing for us to do. We have a cloud-native SaaS product, which is easy to use. We have all of the information security, and we have all of the right standards and certifications to allow you to use it and run any data on it easily. But there are considerations. I've been through these experiences myself with banks. Reduction of team resources can be a real issue. Key changes to governance also. These things don't have to be hard, but they often are. So I find with governance in a bank, for example, this can really get in the way, because a bank may have a model they've been using for many years that requires a multiple step approval process for a particular data management function. But it's difficult to move away from that and use an automated, faster solution. Our AIR solution is actually built with audit logs and capabilities, so we can export the details of how the process has been put together, how it was performed, or the viewer can simply see it all on the UI. So fintechs like us, and I'm sure banks as well in various areas, they are trying to do things to make life a lot easier, but with traditional models and internal rules which have been in place a long time, it can be difficult to enable that change and to actually make things easier, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, I follow that. You're obviously out in Singapore at the moment, and there's some incredible banks out in Singapore. I know DBS is always one of the ones that is heralded as one of the most innovative banks out there, as well as some of the challengers. I know Tonic's literally just down the road from you, which is again starting from complete scratch. With that in mind, with such a variety of banks out there doing some good things, let's talk a little bit about fintech ecosystems. What sort of the approach that we've reached when it comes to being able to deploy new products and technologies quickly across the business? How does being part of a network of various sort of third parties play to a bank's strength?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and something I'm a real advocate for, being part of an ecosystem. I think this is really important because we all have to get comfortable individually and as corporations with our strengths and weaknesses. we focus on AI, we focus on the underlying engines that allow you to take data and reconcile it rapidly and effectively. There are many other fintechs that do data visualization, for example. They may do that very well, so we can integrate to those, and we can allow our customers to then run deeper analytics, deeper business intelligence. So we know that we do the AI part really well, but we might recommend you integrate our AI product with another solution that allows you to visualize what you learn from the data in a different way, to better suit the customer's needs. So we have to be comfortable with doing those things, and we are. And I'm familiar with partners that work with RPA, robotic process automation, with OCR and scraping of unstructured data from physical docs or websites. So it just makes sense for us and banks to partner with other organizations and share experience and capabilities. It's just a win-win for everybody. And like I said, you can't be everything to everyone. You have to focus on strengths and allow others to focus on their strengths. And I think it's important to have a plan and be thinking about your strategy for ecosystem partners.
Have you got an example where there's been that kind of that perfect blend of obviously yourself with something like Air 2.0, and then that connects then into X bank and then works with X partner? Is there kind of a go-to example there? Don't worry if there's not, but is there a kind of a good solid example?
I can't disclose who we are working with, but that's my clue. That's the clue I'm giving away. We're talking about integrating our artificial intelligence with business intelligence and MIS tools that allow you to visualize the reconciled AI data in a much more meaningful way. So we've built the products to enable our customers to do that. We are just carefully selecting which ones of those providers we choose to work with, who we think are the best, and where the commercial models make sense as well.
You mentioned about how your latest sort of stream of at SmartStream's AI products are all cloud native, and truly cloud native, i.e. truly digital as opposed to a digitized version. We are still in the middle of a pandemic, and some banks they like to have a physical log of who's got keys to the server room, and obviously when being cloud native, that's not really a bigger concern. So how do you think that cloud-based technologies have enabled financial institutions to grapple with the fallout from the pandemic?
Well, yes, they definitely have enabled financial institutions to handle the pandemic better, moving to cloud, most certainly. I think that it was PwC that recently put out a quote that spending on cloud investment rose about 37% in the first quarter of last year. So COVID has created that urgency, definitely, for scalable, secure, cost-effective, and off-premise technology. I think that one of the things to think about is cost consciousness. This has really been key for the financial institutions at this time during the pandemic. They want variable costs based on their usage. In my experience, they prefer that OPEX model over CAPEX. Cloud and SaaS models give you that. So this has been a win-win for cloud. I know a bank here in Asia Pacific, like many others probably, that during the crisis had to downgrade servers to save costs, but wanted increased capacity once the lockdown actually ended. So using a cloud solution and cloud technology, they could upgrade and downgrade resources according to their volumes. So the other thing is, most obviously, we need to cope with our people working from home. And obviously cloud enables that, like nothing else. So it's been good for cloud.
Absolutely. The last thing I want to touch on is in terms of finance, where can the tech go from here? I mean, we are definitely going to see those classic articles that say Rise of the Machines with a good old picture of a Terminator. Where can AI go within finance from here? The prediction models must be starting to get more and more data? What does the future hold?
That's such a big question. And if I knew all the answers, I'd be very, very wealthy. But I do really love working in this space, and it's really exciting. There's lots of great things going on and lots of things to look forward to. We're focused on giving our customers a solution that meets every need when it comes to everything to do with data reconciliation and putting flexibility and agility in the hands of the end user. We're doing this today. But in the wider space, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing more opportunities within open banking, API platforms. I love seeing what some organizations have done with, like we were talking about earlier, with ecosystems, the ecosystems of applications and toolkits for financial institutions, where you can access and integrate fintech products from different companies in one place. And there's also no code to construct how they operate together. Me personally, I am watching, and I'm a big advocate for meaningful opportunities in using data. So sort of socially sort of conscious activities, if you know, I could mention those. I mean, I'm a strong advocate for the disaggregation of gender specific data. I think that could really shake things up for banking and wealth inclusivity all over the world. Lots of organizations I'm following are now starting to look at that, and opportunities in using AI to identify the client in a lot more detail, not just the client, but we've never exposed really the gender of the client. And if we do that, it has such positive implications for women economically, but obviously for banks and fintechs as well. There's a lot of commercial opportunity there. There's just so many opportunities now to better and more deeply understand what customers need in a different way, because there's big data technology, there's more of that to expose their behavior, the things that they're doing, the things that they're not doing, applying AI to that. I think just for SmartStream, which I should focus on, we're continuing to listen to our customers. We're partnering with them. We're ensuring we are building out sort of agility internally, so we can respond to their needs and deliver very future-proof solutions for them. And our innovation labs and the AI products that we build are very central to that effort.
Question on that, because I'm always fascinated by this. And Frostbank had the guts to put out a really quite damning case study when it comes to, for example, approving loans. Typically, you'd look over previous data. And although you wouldn't have, say, the gender in previous data, you would have, say, a first name or other various elements that could be used to identify gender. And then rather than going, right, we're going to, historically, we have rejected loans for women. Historically, we've rejected loans for people called Victoria, Sandra, Kim, whatever. Do you think that when it comes to bringing in historic data, it would need to kind of be cleaned in a specific way? What's the kind of solution to that historic data problem?
Yes, well, there's a lot of organisations at the moment, mostly non-profit organisations and ones that probably aren't funded as well as they should be, which are trying to answer that very question. So they work with organisations that hold and use a lot of this data, and they are working very hard to disaggregate those attributes, which, like you've sort of described, determine what type of individual that person is. Because we were looking at data points before in terms of demographic and maybe age and location, but if you throw gender into the mix as well in certain areas of the world, you can build up a picture of why certain genders may not be taking certain products or not participating in certain financial activities. And I mean, there's a number of organizations that are doing this, not a huge amount, and like I say, they're quite underfunded, but it's a really interesting topic, because if we do get that right, it can change, lives economically of women all over the world. It really can, and make products more suitable for them. And it's just something that I have an interest in. So I think it's a really interesting topic, and I follow quite a few tech companies that are looking at this, and there's been a few webinars recently actually about the opportunities within the fintech space. So maybe this will be something that we'll talk about a bit more later on in the year. I would love that.
Absolutely. The last thing I always ask this: who are you, and where are you, and what do you look after?
Okay, so who am I? I'm the global head of business development for the SmartStream Air solution at SmartStream. I've been with the company since last year, so early 2020. I was onboarded pretty much from home actually during the pandemic when it kicked off. So yes, my background is financial services. I actually started my career as a stockbroker when I was 19. So I was on a trading desk selling small cap equities when I started, and then I moved into trading software, front end HTML5 trading platforms, liquidity management systems, everything from sort of single dealer platforms and multi-dealer platforms. And then about 5-6 years ago, I moved into the middle office and back office operations technology space, and I was working with a startup in the UK, and I helped them to grow their footprint in the UK and Europe. And I moved out here to Singapore for that organization, and started, created the initial APAC footprint for them. And I joined SmartStream last year, so I'm responsible for looking after the air business development initiative, everything to do with sales of this product, but also the way that we influence that roadmap and what what are we building for which areas of opportunity, which different markets do we want to move into. And I have a team of people now that are working with me on the sales of the product, and it's been really great. We recently won an award for the best artificial intelligence technology. Really enjoying working at SmartStream. So that's a little bit about me.
Excellent. So thank you very much, Victoria.